Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the college football playoff preview hosted by me, Austin Mock. I'll be using my model. If you haven't been here before, I'll be using my model to preview what I think is the current landscape of the college football playoff race. Um, if you are unfamiliar with my work, over at The Athletic for all your college football and NFL needs, what you're seeing on the screen, if you're watching on YouTube right now, is my projected bracket using my model, using my playoff simulator for the current uh, college football playoff. This is my current projected bracket as it stands today. Week 8 of the college football season did not disappoint. There were some big games, but we kicked off the weekend with an upset with Louisville taking down Miami. As we see there, Miami fell down to the current 4 seed. Um, Furthermore, Ole Miss blew uh, a game that I think they firmly were the better team for 3 quarters. Outscored 17 to nothing in the fourth quarter at Georgia. As we now see Georgia moving up, Ole Miss moving down. Tennessee, their playoff hopes take a big tank with their loss at Alabama, as we've now seen Alabama ever since that puzzling loss to Florida State in the opening week of the season. Not sure what happened there, as both programs have gone separate ways. Alabama's now a firm top 4 seed, receiving a first round bye in the playoff. Texas Tech goes to Arizona State and loses. Arizona State keeps their playoff hopes alive. Um, guess they were never really out of it. Vanderbilt, another team, they win at home against LSU. You will not see them on my current bracket, and you will not see them on the bubble. I'll get a little bit into that later on in the video. USC, going to say that their playoff hopes took a pretty big drop with their loss at Notre Dame. And as I've been saying all year long, if you've listened to any of these videos, Notre Dame is still firmly in the playoff race here. Even with those 2 losses, they probably still need to win out to get there. But anybody who was saying earlier in the year that Notre Dame had no shot did not know what they were talking about, or has not paid attention to how the college football playoff season, how the playoff selection committee has gone about the last few years. Utah goes on the road at BYU. BYU wins. That should be an interesting, again, Big 12 race. Texas Tech losing. BYU's undefeated. That'll be an interesting one. Missouri escapes in overtime at Auburn to kind of round out uh, your playoff bubble teams at the moment here. So getting into next week, not a ton of huge gains, but as again, we've seen this over and over. The 10th ranked team in the country is not that far away from the 30th ranked team in the country. So anything can happen on any given week. Ole Miss, Oklahoma is a huge game. Obviously, right now, Ole Miss is sitting as my 9 seed. Oklahoma's on the bubble, both with 1 loss. I've mentioned before, this is kind of the last. I don't want to say it's the only test for Ole Miss the rest of the year, but their schedule works out pretty nicely for them. Virginia is a team 6-1, 3-0 in the ACC right now. They go on the road to North Carolina. Group of 5 drama. I have been firmly on the Tulane train. They have been the team there at the 12 seed, the highest ranked group of 5, basically since Boise State lost to South Florida early in the year. People were jumping on the Memphis train. People were jumping on the South Florida train. I'm definitely higher on South Florida than Memphis. Obviously, Memphis lost last week in a pretty inexplicable loss. South Florida travels to them. Maybe they can get a bounce back. But Tulane is my group of 5 team right now. But that South Florida Memphis game is pretty big. Alabama goes on the road. Missouri goes on the road to Vanderbilt. And maybe, I still think Ole Miss, Oklahoma's bigger, but Missouri, Vanderbilt is up there as well. BYU goes on the road to Iowa State. Outside of that, Texas A&M, LSU. Texas A&M got to go on the road. We'll see what happens. The defense has been a little it's been rough. And then Houston, Arizona State, 8 o'clock Eastern start is another big game. So that's kind of the roundup of what's happening here. Just going to go through my teams 1 through 12 in the bracket, talk about the teams on the bubble. Going to talk about some teams maybe further down the bubble that maybe we need to keep an eye on. But starting with Ohio State, again, there's nothing really to talk about with the Buckeyes at this point. I think they're the best team in the country. I don't know. Again, the offense is still I don't want to say concern, but that's the part that I'm unsure about. I think the defense is nasty. just won a back-to-back road game at Wisconsin without that game even coming. Julian Sand almost threw for 400 yards. Couldn't really run the ball. That was interesting. Not a lot of rushing yards, but 34-0. They're off this week. They host Penn State in what we thought was going to be maybe the biggest game of the season this year. Obviously, that's no longer the case. That should be a win for them. They go to Purdue, home against UCLA, home against Rutgers. Pretty good shot that they're going 11-1 by the end of this season, or sorry, 11-0 by the end of this season before heading to Michigan. They've lost 4 in a row. Obviously, that's a pretty big game, and that's the only one that I can see them losing the rest of the way. Purdue and UCLA, I don't think have the horses to go there. Penn State's in the same boat. If that game was at Penn State, maybe something could get fluky. I don't know, but the way the Penn State's looked, I'm not losing too much sleep over that. Rutgers is not a good team. Those games are at home as well. So pretty much a lock at this point. They're more than 99% to make the playoff right now for me. I don't think anyone in the Big Ten is on their level. I think Oregon's a step down. Indiana, I think, is a step down, even though Indiana's had a good year. But, yeah, Buckeyes, best team in the country, pretty much a shoe-in for 11-0. Got to go to Michigan. That'll be the interesting game there. So Indiana is your 2 seed, though. Big Ten still hanging out at the top of the bracket here. Indiana, no Ohio State this year. That's what they had last year. They lost. That was their only regular season loss before losing to Notre Dame in the college football playoff. They have UCLA at home this weekend after Michigan State game was kind of close early, but then they took advantage and put them away in pretty easy fashion there. So you got home against UCLA. They got to go to Maryland. I don't see that being too difficult of a game. They got to go to Penn State. Maybe that gets weird. Who knows? Again, another game that I thought a few weeks ago was going to be one of the bigger games of the college football season, and it's no longer. Home against Wisconsin, easy win, and I think even at Purdue. Though, a night game, rivalry game, anything can happen, of course. But, again, kind of a shoo-in for at least 11-1. That's their most likely record for me. Them and Ohio State, you can see here my projected records. That's the most likely record for each team. They're the only 11-1 teams in the country right now, projected-wise, by my model, as I simulate the season over and over. So those two, there's just nobody else in the Big Ten. Oregon already lost to Indiana. Oregon doesn't play Ohio State. Ohio State doesn't play Indiana. So pretty much a shoe-in. 11-1. These two kind of look destined to meet each other in Indianapolis in what will be a huge game to presumably get a bye into the playoff. We'll see what happens to the loser depending on who it is. Ohio State obviously has a better chance of keeping their bye if they were to lose. But as it stands right now, they are my number 1 and 2 seeds. Ohio State greater than 99% to make the playoff. Indiana at 97%. Like I said, with Penn State becoming with Drew Hours' injury and them kind of falling off the map here, both of those playoff odds have gone way up in terms of odds to make it. So 3rd seed, Alabama. This is where it gets a little interesting. We start to get a little bit into the uncertainties. Alabama, I don't know how they lost to Florida State. Florida State just lost to Stanford. I don't know what happened in that week 1 game. And to be honest with you, like they weren't even close to winning. Now Ty Simpson is like putting himself in the Heisman race. Alabama looks great. They have four straight ranked wins at Georgia, home against Vanderbilt, at Missouri, home against Tennessee. They get a break this week at South Carolina, which should be a victory. But again, I'm not going to discount anybody going on the road and seeing what happens there. But home against LSU, home against Oklahoma before playing home against Eastern Illinois, an easy win there, and then going to Auburn. I think Alabama is the 2nd best team in the country behind Ohio State. Their projected record right now is 10-2, as you can see on the screen there. I don't know how they lost that game to Florida State, but we're sitting here. It's not easy. Like they do get LSU and Oklahoma at home, and then their 2, 3rd and 4th toughest games at South Carolina, at Auburn. I'm not impressed by really either of those teams, but I'm not going to say that nothing that it's a for sure win or anything like that, but it looks like Alabama's pretty firmly into the playoff here. Their schedule's been so difficult, although Florida State losing hasn't made it has made them go down a little bit. Um, it's been so difficult that I think they're the team. If 9-3, they're going to be the highest ranked 9-3 team, and a pretty good chance to make the playoffs. So they have some room here, though. Florida State losing probably gives them less room, and Florida State falling off from where we thought they were after they beat Alabama. But yeah, Alabama, they're the current projected 3 seed, 84% to make the playoff. They're your SEC favorite. They have a very good chance to get to the bye. Second most likely team to win a national title. Miami. I um, did some content on the Hammer Betting Network, and on Friday said that I thought they had just the trench play to kind of dominate, to dominate Louisville. It may be Louisville. I had some over in that game. Didn't go that way, but very surprising performance. Carson Beck was not very good. Just playing right bad, 4 interceptions, and now has kind of brought some doubt into Miami's kind of future here. Again, the schedule is not bad. Stanford, at SMU, home against Syracuse, home against NC State, at Virginia Tech, and at Pitt. Though I will say, Pitt's been playing better. You got to go to Pitt late November. Maybe it's cold out. That could be a tricky game. We know Mario Cristobal's history in November. So something to watch there. I don't know. 10-2 Miami gets interesting. They do have the win over Notre Dame. That's big. They do have the win over South Florida. That's big. The Florida State win, I don't think anybody cares about anymore. So they will be fine. And Louisville's been a good team as well. They're firmly in this race as we come down the home stretch. But not a lot of room for mistakes here. Then they have to play in the ACC championship game. We'll see who that ends up being. But yeah, I think Miami's a pretty good shot of still getting there. But I think there's a world where Georgia Tech's pretty good. It's not, I guess, easy for Miami here the rest of the way. So they're the 4 seed. I have, again, this goes into the schedule thing. They have a little bit better. They have the Notre Dame winner in their pocket, which is going to help them. But I do wonder with the Louisville loss and how Louisville looks the rest of the year, what that does, because Florida State's falling off the map. What does that do for Miami the rest of the year? Because Louisville, they got to go home against Boston College, will be fine. At Virginia Tech, home against Cal, home against Clemson, at SMU, and home against Kentucky. They only have 1 loss right now, but they could drop 2. They haven't looked all that impressive in a couple of these games, so we'll see. Miami, for now, the 4 seed, I'm a little hesitant on what that looks like long term for Miami with this. As we look, the teams behind them, I think, are going to have better resumes and a good chance to jump them, because I can't trust the Mario Cristobal team. That's what it is. I've kind of stood around it. I didn't say it. It's painful. This is what they do. They have strong trench play. They should win out, but as we saw against Louisville on Friday at home, just laid a total dud. Oregon's your 5 seed, moving right along here. Need some help to get into the Big Ten championship game, obviously, with the loss to Indiana. The schedule, and Oregon's an interesting one. We look back, I was pretty impressed with them earlier. They beat Penn State in double overtime. I thought they were the better team in that game. They kind of lost. They were the better team for like 3 quarters. Penn State made a run late in that game. They've played some really bad teams. Excuse me. So I'm a little concerned. They got to play Wisconsin this weekend. That's another bad team. They got to go to Iowa. That'll be interesting to see how they go there. And then you got home against Minnesota, which I again think they should be fine. Then home against USC and at Washington. So things get a little dicey at the end of the season for Oregon. They're still projected for 10-2. That's their most likely record. They're 83% to make the playoffs. So I'm not, I guess, losing too much sleep on them at this point. But like, what are we? If they drop a game, they don't really have a quality win. How far can they go down in this playoff, in the seeding? That's the thing that I'm interested in. If they wins at Iowa, home against USC, and at Washington, will boost them pretty far. So everything's in front of them. I still think they're one of the best teams in the country. I do have a little bit less conviction as we go through this, and they did not look good against Indiana. Indiana firmly outplayed them, and with Penn State going the way they have, the wins on that schedule are not that impressive. So 10-2 is their most likely record. My model thinks that between the last 4 games of the year, they're likely to drop one more. But 10-2 is going to probably get them in. But the seeding wise, if they do go 10-2, I could see them being a little bit, not guaranteed to host a playoff first round playoff game. If that's the case, if they do drop one. 6 seed Georgia making moves. I am skeptical of the defense, but again, this team just keeps winning. I don't know how Ole Miss blew that game, but they did, and they've now come away with it. They didn't look particularly great against Auburn. They probably should have lost to Tennessee, but again, here we are. They're 2 games they probably should have lost, at Tennessee and home against Ole Miss, and Georgia is sitting firmly at 6-1 with a neutral game against Florida, who just fired Billy Napier, at Mississippi State, home against Texas. I know that Texas's offense hasn't looked great. Georgia's defense is bad. Maybe there's a mismatch there, but that should be a game that Georgia wins. Home against Charlotte, which is an easy win. And then they got to play Georgia Tech in Atlanta, last game of the year. So that'll be, the way that it's working out, you can see on screen there, it's going to be a huge, huge game for both teams. Georgia Tech might have clinched an ACC spot at that point. So that'll be something to see here going forward with Georgia. Is, can they avoid the slip up? The defense is not great. It's concerning. Can Florida, Texas, or Georgia Tech make enough? But again, Georgia has the benefit. They've won SEC loss. If they do lose to Georgia Tech, go 10-2, they still have a pretty good chance of making the SEC championship game. The win against Ole Miss is going to be very large for them. Alabama has not lost inside the SEC yet, so maybe a rematch with Alabama is on showcase. But lose to Georgia Tech, see where the seeding goes. Beat Alabama, similar to last year. It could be the same type of thing where Georgia sneaks in the SEC championship game and wins despite losing games in the regular season. But I don't know if I can trust that defense yet. Right now, they're at 81%, not too far behind Oregon. 20% to win the SEC, 38% to win to get a first round bye. So 10-2, your most likely record. Again, my model thinks they're likely to drop one of the Florida at Mississippi State, home against Texas, or Georgia Tech games. I don't think they're going to lose to Charlotte. So again, there's possibility for chaos. We saw it last week. We've seen it before. I think it's going to happen more and more here as we keep going. I don't think anybody is great. I think that's going to leave opportunities for teams to get upset. I think that's going to give us a chance for teams to sneak into the playoffs, for teams to fall out of the playoffs. Avoiding those disastrous losses is what's going to be huge. And going to Ole Miss, we'll talk about them in a minute, but like the Washington State game, they got ahead. Maybe they were looking ahead to Georgia, whatever it was. Now all of a sudden they didn't look great against them. They lose the game to Georgia, and now it's, hey, can we trust them to not drop 2 more before the playoffs? So buckle up, folks. I think it is going to be a fun ride here the rest of the season. Texas A&M is your 7 seed. Their defense, another team without defense. I thought they might have turned it around a little bit, but they got scored on early in the season against UTSA and Utah State. Then Notre Dame was lighting them up. I thought they kind of Auburn, Mississippi State, and Florida, all 3 games at home, they looked all right. and then they go to Arkansas, and Bobby Petrino's just having those guys kind of ball out. So maybe I should hold a little bit of, hold off a little bit on saying that Texas A&M's defense is too bad, but they are weak there. I do think they got to go, and this is the weird scheduling quirk. They were just on the road at Arkansas. They go on the road to LSU this weekend. That'll be an interesting game. They have a bye week. They go to Missouri after the bye week. So they will not have a home game between October 11th and November 15th. That's a big time. They went 1-0? Can they get to 2-0? Can they get to 3-0? Will be the big question. And pretty much determine their seeding, whether they can make the SEC championship game, obviously. Home against South Carolina, again, should be a win. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a guarantee. Home against Samford, they should be fine. And then you got to go to Texas. That's not going to be an easy game either. So you have 4 SEC games left, currently undefeated at 7-0. My motto has them pegged for 10-2. So there's still likely to be 2 losses on the schedule at LSU, at Missouri, and at Texas. 2-1 is great in that stretch, obviously. Can they do it? I don't know. The defense worries me a bit, but my model thinks 1-2 is more likely, definitely when you factor in the home game against South Carolina. So another team in the SEC that I'm a little skeptical of the defense. We'll see how that goes the rest of the way. Notre Dame, I've talked about them at length here. They beat USC. That game was in basically a monsoon. Notre Dame ran for like 300 plus yards. I don't have the exact number. Jeremiah Love was awesome. That game was, I felt, more than a 10-point margin. Notre Dame was a much better team. At BC, home against Navy. Navy's pretty solid. They don't have the horses to hang with Notre Dame. I'm sorry. I don't believe it. I know Notre Dame's defense has been a little leaky this year at times. It's been better in the last few weeks. I don't think Navy can. I don't think they can pull it off. At Pitt, I said it with Miami. That could be a little bit of a tricky game. Pitt's been playing better. Home against Syracuse, at Stanford. That's there. I think they probably need to win out to get in. The win you want, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you want to root for USC to keep winning to give yourself a good win, maybe end up with a top 25 win for the committee to like. But again, I'll say I know Miami lost, but you have a 4-point losses to 2 top 10 teams. And if Miami keeps winning, you're going to, that looks pretty good from a resume standpoint. I've said it all year. They are most likely to go 9-3 in my model, just how kind of things work out. Those losses, I don't think are going to hurt them. My model does not think it's going to hurt them. Everybody says like, oh, they don't have the wins. Like, no, who did Indiana beat last year? Who did Penn State beat last year? Like, it does not matter as long as you win games. Notre Dame's schedule is not amazing, but it's not horrible. Definitely when you throw that they played Miami, Texas A&M, USC on there. If Pitt keeps playing well, that could be a solid game as well. They blew the doors off of Arkansas. Arkansas just played Texas A&M tough. So, Notre Dame is in 9-3. I think they still have a shot more than people want to admit, because I think 9-3 is more likely than a 9-3 playoff team is more likely than what people realize. But I've said it all before. I might be overrating Notre Dame. I might be overrating the Big 12 and ACC in general. Like I've said, the committee in past videos, the committee might be valuing strength of schedule more this year after the SMU Alabama debate last year. But I like where Notre Dame sits as it currently stands today. Looking over, I haven't even pulled up betting odds for any of these teams yet. They are minus 280 to make the playoffs at FanDuel. That's sitting around 71, 72%. If you're taking out the VIG, that's the implied percentage. I got them at 67. So I'm not even as high on them. If you think my number is high, you don't think Notre Dame's going to get there, you can get some, it's plus 220, but you can get some, you can get a pretty decent price on Notre Dame if you want to bet them to not make the playoff, if you think they are to drop another game. 9 seed, Ole Miss. This is so much of Lane Kiffin, and I don't know what to make of Ole Miss as a football program. But again, big games or games they shouldn't lose. I'm going to throw the game in Georgia in there. They shouldn't have lost that game, but let's go through this. I just want to go through Ole Miss again. This is what Lane Kiffin does. They pull you in, but in hindsight's 2020, they beat Kentucky 30-23. Game was on the road. Didn't look great. They beat Arkansas 41-35. I know Arkansas played Texas A&M tough, but at around this time, Notre Dame smacked them. That game was at Ole Miss. Won by 6. They did crush Tulane. Give them credit. They crushed Tulane. LSU, they beat LSU by 5. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's not a great win, but again, it's just like this team just is winning a lot of close games. They blow the game against Georgia. I skipped over Washington State. That game inexcusably close. We're losing in the fourth quarter of that game, if I remember correctly. No, they were not. They were losing in the third quarter of that game. But yeah, they were right there. So again, Ole Miss, close games. They just, I don't know. They just leave a lot to be desired. They got to go to Oklahoma. That defense has been nasty for Oklahoma. We'll see how that goes. Home against South Carolina, home against Citadel, home against Florida, at Mississippi State. I've said it all before. The reason why Ole Miss is so high, the reason why their odds are at 61%, per my motto, is because of the schedule. Outside of this Oklahoma game, and even if they lose it, they'll go down because there's a chance they can lose another game. But betting market's closer to a coin flip for them. FanDuel is -110 both ways, yes, no, to make the playoffs. I think it's a little bit higher than that. I think they have a chance to beat Oklahoma. The rest of the schedule is very manageable for Ole Miss. Can I trust Lane Kiffin to not drop a game he shouldn't? No, but that's where I sit with it as we stand today. So, yeah, Ole Miss, can you trust them? I'm not sure. Texas Tech is your 10 seed. Texas A&M, that'd be a fantastic first-round game. Arizona State, that game was wild. Arizona State for like 3.5 quarters dominated. Texas Tech makes a run, and Arizona State comes back in the waning seconds to pull away and win that game, to come back after almost blowing it. Yeah, that's huge for Texas Tech. That kind of opens up the Big 12 a bit. Texas A&M was starting to look like they might run away with it. They're down to 57%. According to my projections, it really, really hurts their at-large bid. Similar price over at FanDuel -148 to the over, +120, or to the yes, +120 to the no. So I'm pretty much on market here with them. I've said it before. And I mentioned it with Notre Dame. I don't know if the committee is going to be very fond of how these Big 12 teams, in terms of like getting at large bids. If we look at the AP poll and coaches poll, I know it's not perfect, but there is some overlap in how the committee ranks teams and how the AP poll ranks teams. Going into last week, Texas Tech was ranked 7th. They lose on the road at Arizona State, and they drop to 14th in the AP poll. Last in the coaches poll, they were 8th. They dropped to 15th. So same thing, big losses. There's something just we can't. I don't know if we don't want or a Big 12 ACC teams to be in the playoff as an at-large, but that loss hurts their outlook in terms of getting that at-large bid. So something to keep an eye on there going forward. Georgia Tech, I mentioned them a little bit with Georgia. Huge win against Duke. Offense couldn't really get going. They find a way to win. They win pretty good. Haynes King, love them. Look at the schedule. Home against Syracuse, at NC State, at BC, home against Pitt. Tough game, but that game is at home because Pitt's been playing better. And then Georgia. And so, again, they're undefeated. So that's why they're up here in the 11th. I am at 48% to make the college football playoff. Their odds right now, this is from FanDuel, they're not as high as I am. They're more in the mid-30s, 35% or so, 36. So I'm a little high on Georgia Tech, but again, 7-0. I think they can get there. I might be overrating, again, the ACC getting an at-large bid. If they go 12. Like, I'm really interested. I hope this happens. I want like a Georgia Tech to go 12-0. BYU is kind of in this category as well. Go 12-0, lose in the conference championship game, and see where the committee puts you. Because if they go 12-0, this is my concern. Is just like what we talked about with Texas Tech. They were ranked 7th. They dropped 7 places, ranked 7th and 8th, now 14th and 15th in the AP and coaches poll. Is that going to be the same thing? If BYU and Georgia Tech go undefeated, Georgia Tech has the big win over Georgia. Are they going to be ranked like 5th? Are we going to boot them out if they lose in the ACC championship game to Miami? Say so. You go 12-0 with a loss to a, top 5 team. If say Miami keeps winning, that's one of the things that I wonder here about what we're getting with these at-large bids. I don't know. I'm doing my best to project it. I could be totally wrong. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm wrong or not, or hit me up on social. I'm happy to be wrong. I don't want to be, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm never wrong. So that's fine. I already touched on Tulane. I think they're the team. We have big Memphis, South Florida, big game for the AAC champion. Boise State kind of hanging around. Just want to throw it out there. But I don't think they actually are, but maybe if the AAC starts beating up on each other enough. Rest of the teams, Louisville, they jump up because of their win over Miami. South Florida's up there with their odds to win the AAC. Oklahoma, huge game for them. They beat Ole Miss, they're going to shoot up. Missouri, same thing. They beat Vanderbilt, they're going to shoot up. Cincinnati is alive in the Big 12 race. SMU is like quietly hanging around somehow in the, like, I wrote them off so long ago. I can't really, like, I kind of forgot about them. And here they are, just kind of hanging out, alive in the playoff race. They lost that. The Baylor game is going to kill them. They lose to TCU. They have not lost in ACC play yet. And they have a chance. I'm not saying it's likely. They have a chance at Wake Forest. They get Miami at home. They got to go to Boston College. They get Louisville at home. And they got to go to Cal. That is how you can stay in the playoff race. I don't think they can get in as an at-large. That's why you're seeing their conference odds. I'm pretty high on them. That does concern me going forward. But, yeah, I'm at 20. I'm a little bit too high. I think I would say my model is a little too optimistic that they can make the run. So that is something to look at. BYU is up there as well. Like I just mentioned, they're 7-0. I'd like to see them go undefeated, lose in the Big 12 championship game, and see how the committee handles them. Tennessee still alive, went out, and I think you're looking all right. Navy's still around. I don't trust them. Texas. This is the team I don't get. Texas. Said it all year. I've been super low on Texas all year long. All year. Right now, according to FanDuel, Texas is like 32% to make the playoff. I don't know how. They already have 2 losses. I understand that this team lost at Ohio State, and that game was close. I do think Texas' defense is really good. Like, don't get me wrong. I think the offense has a lot to be desired here. They lose to Florida. I know they got the win over Oklahoma, and maybe they shouldn't have rushed Mateer back. Who knows? But they got to go to Mississippi State. They got Vanderbilt. They got to go to Georgia. Arkansas has been playing team stuff. Who knows how that game's going to go? That game's at home, though. And then they got to play Texas A&M. That game's at home. Maybe they can be in at 9-3. And I know they only have 1 SEC loss, so they still have a chance to win. I just don't see this offense getting through. Like, they just snuck by Kentucky. They didn't look great against UTEP. Like, what? I can't get there. I don't know. The market, I don't know if that's one of those things where the market has a lot of liability on Texas, so they're gonna just juice them up a little bit because nobody's wanting to bet the no. But I like the no in that. I have them at 13% there, as you can see. Virginia's still alive. Motto's not a huge believer of that team, so we'll see as we get down there. USC probably has to win out. That loss to Illinois is killer for USC right now. They had that game, gave up a drive late to get there. Utah, I don't know. Michigan. Whoa, my camera's bugging out right now. Try to turn that off real quick. That was weird. I have like an automatic camera, so apologies. See if it. I think we're good. Apologies if you're just listening to this, but my camera just bugged out like crazy. Michigan has a chance, win out and beat Ohio State. They're probably going to be in the Big Ten championship game at that point as well, because well, I mean there could be some crazy one-loss tiebreakers in the Big Ten championship if we get there, or Big Ten race. But they have the loss to Oklahoma. Camera's bugging out again, so stop it. It still wants to bug out. But anyway, we turn the camera off for the moment. It's still going nuts. I don't know what's happened to it. But anyway, we get back to rounding up the video here. I Michigan can get there, but as you can see on the screen, we got 10 teams over at 57% or higher. There could be some chaos. I still think there will be, but I'm a little high on Georgia Tech as well. They're 48%. Some of these teams are going to fall out, but I think a lot of them are in pretty good shape here. So that's kind of my outlook on the playoff. I think we're getting kind of set. If you were a 4-team playoff merchant and wanted that to stay, or BCS, whatever, I don't know how you can say who. Like I'll give you Ohio State. I don't know if you can say anybody else is like firmly the top 2 teams, top 4 teams. I don't think we have that. So excited for it. Again, hit me up in the comments if you agree with me. If you think I'm wrong, I'm fine with either. I'll gladly debate you and talk about it. I'm happy to hear your thoughts on why I'm wrong and where I'm wrong. If you are listening at this point, please, I would greatly appreciate if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel if you like it, follow me on socials if you want to see my week-to-week or day-to-day posts. Usually posting on there, pretty active, definitely during college and NFL during the weekends. So, yeah, that's it for me. We're back next week again. I'll talk about it. We'll probably have some chaos, see what happens. But until next time, enjoy. And leave a comment if you like and subscribe. And I will hopefully see you after another crazy up and down arrows within that bracket. So see you next time.